All right, folks, it's time for the World Edition on definitely this particular day, which is, uh, let's see what today's is. It is October the 27th, 2025, and all along those lines. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world, and always glad to be covering these things that are taking place in the world and hear what folks have to say about a number of these stories and all along those lines. So definitely, we know a lot's going on in the world, and we're always glad to be reporting on these things and finding out what folks' thoughts are around a number of these news stories that are taking place and how they are handling these various news stories and all along those lines. So definitely, if you've got some thoughts around the news and you want to share your thoughts, don't hesitate to write in your comments and all along those lines on here on the network. And of course, we'll be keeping you informed about a number of things taking place in the world. By the way, it's a very rainy day here in Durham, North Carolina, and it looks like it'll be raining for a while. And that's probably be a result of Hurricane Melissa and some other things that are taking place from the weather standpoint. So Hurricane Melissa is increasing intensity, prompts dire warnings for Jamaica and Haiti. So Hurricane Melissa at Category 5 is set to slam into Jamaica as the island's strongest recorded storm. So definitely that is what folks are saying. And Trump predicts China trade deal finalized in days as his Asia tour continues in Japan. President Trump visited Japan during the Asia tour as shutdown drags on. For Japan's new leader, the key to connecting with Trump could be a Ford F-150 truck. So, Trump administration president has meets with Japan's emperor in Tokyo. So that's something that folks are talking about and hearing how that will go. Lithuania closes border with Belarus after balloons shut down Vilnius airport. Lithuania to shoot down smuggler balloons shut Belarus border crossing, and Lithuania accuses Belarus and Russia of deliberate escalation of hybrid warfare as balloons shut down the airport. Trump dangles the prospect of Mar-a-Lago visit for Xi. So Trump's Asia trip, U.S. and China agreed to framework of a trade deal. Government shutdown heads into another week with no deal in sight. So definitely we'll hear how this goes as well. Cameroon's incumbent president, Biya, is declared the winner of the latest election after unrest. So the world's oldest leader extends rule until he's 99 years old. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. So the world's oldest serving head of state declared the winner in the Cameroon elections. So the world's oldest president has won the Cameroon election at the age of 92. Louvre jewel heist suspects have been arrested. So suspects in the Louvre jewel heist arrested. French authorities are saying Louvre heist hunt on for Romanian thieves after suspect arrested by the French police. Trump departs ASEAN with lingering questions for Southeast Asia's trade. A new dynamic in the Trump Netanyahu relationship. And El Fasher, rebel groups claims capture of a key city in Sudan. Grave fears for civilians after the Sudanese paramilitary claims the capture of El Fasher. Concerns for civilians high after RSF claims control of Sudan's El Fasher. So definitely we'll hear how this goes as the Sudanese paramilitary enters the army's strongest last stronghold in Darfur. Half of uncontacted indigenous tribes could be wiped out in 10 years, according to a report, while the survival of uncontacted indigenous peoples is under growing threat. Brazil and Peru are failing uncontacted peoples, and the Amazon's future is at stake. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as they're learning about the uncontacted indigenous peoples and the efforts to protect them. Conflicted accounts emerge after UN peacekeepers shoot down Israeli drone. So UN peacekeeping forces in Lebanon shoots down an Israeli drone, and Hamas tells mediators it is working to recover 79 bodies of hostages. UNIFIL shoots down IDF surveillance drone over southern Lebanon, sparking a public tiff. And Hamas expands its search for remains of hostages in Gaza as Egypt deploys teams to help. Egypt aids searches for bodies of dead captives in Gaza. So search continues for bodies of missing hostages. London police arrest a sex offender and asylum seeker who was mistakenly released. So moment migrant sex offender arrested in London Park. Prison manager has been scapegoated over the Hadash Capitol's release. And UK police arrest a mistakenly released asylum seeker whose sexual assault case sparked anti-migrant protests. East Timor joins Ashin in bloc's first expansion since the 1990s. In AP interview, East Timor's Ramos Horta says personal diplomacy could bring Myanmar ceasefire. Forging a new era, Timor-Leste admitted into ASEAN. And voters in Dutch general election have 27 parties and 1,166 candidates to choose from. Well, that's a lot of folks to be trying to figure out who's going to be running your country. Open hostility has become normalized. Dutch Muslims fear rise of far right as general election looms. Dutch voters eye return to center after a far right experiment. The Dutch go into the polls again in a snap election caused by anti-immigration lawmaker Wilders. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. So there's a lot going on in the world, including the legality of the U.S. military activity around Venezuela, and they're saying that that's questionable, according to Senator Mark Kelly. Senate evidence does not back up Trump's claim on Caribbean boat strikes, is what Kelly is saying. And Senator Mark Kelly addresses Venezuela, Ukraine, and government shutdown on CBS's Face the Nation. Democratic senator criticizes the legal justification for U.S. strikes in the Caribbean, not a good meeting. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Face the Nation, and definitely U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent, everything is on the table in the talks with China. Scott Bessent's High Water Act, navigating narrows, shutdowns, and global stakes as the Treasury Secretary. And Ukraine damages a dam near Belgorod, cuts off Russia's troops near Vovchansk, and military reports, and the head of Ukraine's drone forces confirmed strikes on Belgorod Reservoir. So the governor of Russia's Belgorod says Ukraine's strike damaged a dam. Pope Leo, don't let tensions between tradition and novelty become harmful polarization. Catholics must build a more humble church, seeking truth together, Pope says. Jubilee of Synodal team, converting relationships to be one in Christ, is what the Pope is talking about, and all along those lines. And DNA finally reveals what really killed Napoleon's forces. The DNA from mass grave reveals pathogens that beset Napoleon's army in 1812. Dead soldiers' teeth revealed diseases that doomed Napoleon's army. So DNA reveals a hidden killer of Napoleon's troops in Russia. And Butthart Trump tries playing hardball with Putin. I'm not wasting my time. Strongly silence from Moscow after Trump turns on Russia, says talk with Putin, don't go anywhere. So that's something that was going on when they were planning that summit and all along those lines. So lots going on in the world. And of course, we've got these Asia talks and all in that space. I've got Rick Rosner with me. I'll have him join me in a little bit and we'll see what he's got going on. And we'll see who else joins us as well. But a lot's going on even in the U.S. Two U.S. Navy aircrafts go down in the South China Sea. Two U.S. Navy helicopter and fighter jets in separate South China Sea crashes. So that's something that folks are talking about in that way, as Navy loses two aircrafts from the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier within 30 minutes. Capital agenda, brace for sharper shutdown pain. 6 ways the shutdown is about to get worse. When is the next vote on the government shutdown? Will the Senate vote today? That's what some people are asking. And Democrats unflinching in shutdown strategy, blaming Trump with millions at risk of losing food aid. U.S. and China agreed to a framework for a trade deal ahead of the G-Trump meeting. Rare earth stocks stumble as U.S. expects China to delay export controls. Asian markets and U.S. stock futures rise after U.S. and Chinese officials agree on trade deal framework. Republicans grapple with voter frustration over rising healthcare premium. Obamacare sticker shock begins as open enrollment meets shutdown deadlock. So Obamacare enrollees worried about losing the enhanced subsidies. Share your story is what was being reported on CNN. So we'll hear what their folks have to say about that in the next couple of days. And the largest federal worker union calls for an immediate end to the shutdown. So AFGE, the largest federal workers union, calls for an end to shutdown, putting pressure on Democrats. 4 sisters diagnosed with rare brain condition. Got to be kidding. So I think that was dealing with the shutdown as well. Government shutdown. Live updates as missed paychecks and benefit lapses increase. U.S. government announces it will stop paying for food aid from November. Food stamps, U.S. government says it will stop paying for food aid next week. SNAP benefits won't go out November 1st. The well has run dry, USDA says. So SNAP funding expiration set to hit 40 million people. And Milei wins a mandate for free market revolution in Argentina's election. Milei scores a historic win in the Argentina midterms and tightens grip on Congress. Argentine bonds and currency surge after victory for Javier Milei's party. So definitely that's something that's going on as well. And Mom Donnie, I went door to door with Zoran canvassers. What people said to surprise me. Mom Donnie seeks to unite Sanders and AOC and Hochul. So Mamdani rallies with Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez as Democrats close ranks around the New York City mayoral race. And Trump says he'd love to run in 2028. Trump asked whether he would run as a vice presidential candidate in 2028. But Donald Trump doesn't rule out running in 2028 for a third term. And I know that Steve Bannon has been going on the talk show circuit talking about ways that they can make this happen, despite the fact that the Constitution says you're only entitled to 2 terms. Indiana Governor Mike Braun calls a special session to redraw the state's congressional map and all along those lines. So Republican support grows for redistricting do-over in Indiana. And storms drench Central Florida, creating particularly dangerous situation as rainfall totals in Central Florida. Road closures and flooded streets to avoid in Brevard and Lake counties is what some people are saying, as there were 19 inches of rain in that area. And a man in a Nazi uniform assaulted a Georgia student after he was denied entry into a bar, officials are saying. So bozo clad in a full Nazi uniform breaks woman's nose outside the Georgia College bar and gets busted. So on that note, since I know that Rick has done some work in bars, I'll see if he's ever had to deal with anybody like that. And
no, that's what I wanted. I was not happy with my nose. And one of the reasons I worked in bars is I wanted somebody to break my nose, because I'd had a friend who got his nose busted by a basketball. And when they rebuilt it, they made it perfect. And he always had a girlfriend. I'm like, well, I need a nose like that. But drunks are really bad at hitting. So, and plus I got a caveman face where I got a lot of bone here. So like they never really did much damage. So I had to go to a med school and get a nose job.
Hey, Sasha and Rick, are we getting into war with Venezuela? Because Venezuela is calling the U.S. military exercises in nearby Trinidad and Tobago a provocation. So they're saying that U.S. warships docking.
Venezuela only has 28 million people. That's 1/11 of what the U.S. has. So I don't know. I mean, Trump is picking on one of the smaller nations. Well, I mean, you don't want to fight Brazil. You don't want to fight Mexico. You don't want to fight Colombia, all much bigger than Venezuela. So, yeah, they're picking on a little guy.
Yeah, well, apparently Biden, speaking of little guys, he got, he's calling these dark days as he urges Americans to get back up. He says, get up, America, get up now, because he was recently honored by the Kennedy Institute in Boston. So he received a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I think that he was saying what's going on is a shame and all along those lines. But, yeah, I don't know what y'all's thoughts around this, because maybe Biden, well, what are y'all thoughts around? Because apparently there's just a real push for folks to get President Trump a third term, because I've been seeing 2 or 3 times where Steve Bannon has been going around.
By the election of 2028, Trump will be more than 82 years old. Right. He got a semi-secret MRI when he went to Walter Reed for it wasn't even an annual medical exam. His annual exam is, I think, in April, but he went earlier this month. Now he's saying he got an MRI, which indicates something's going on, because that's not part of a normal medical exam. Trump's father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at age 86 and died of it at age 93. Trump's father was in much better shape, less fat than Trump. So, will Trump, I mean, they can always weekend at Bernie's him. They can always keep him going with a bunch of, pills
and stuff like that.
There's even a helmet that they can put on your head where if they run an electrical magnetic current across your brain, it makes your brain function better for about an hour. They should be putting that transcranial induction helmet. I don't want to give them any ideas, but they're not listening. They should start using that on him before his public appearances, so maybe he'll make more sense.
Maybe
But
that will.
yeah, so I mean, the Constitution says he can't do it. But even if they do an end run around the Constitution, we don't know if he's going to be in any shape to do it in 3 years.
We don't know what kind of shape he'll be in, but his buddy Steve Bannon is definitely going around the news circuits. If we ever invite Steve Bannon and he comes, he'll probably tell us the same thing. But I've seen at least two interviews where he's told people that there is meetings going on and they're having secret meetings to figure out a way to get around that. But he will be our president in 2029, is what Steve Bannon.
One of the things they do is just say stuff to upset the libs, and Steve Bannon can say whatever he wants, and that you can't fight that skeleton guy with the scythe who eventually cuts all of us down.
He cuts us all down at some point or another. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, and I'll get to Ukraine in a minute, but you've gone around the world. You've traveled.
Wait, where is Sasha?
He was here with us. He's not here with us anymore.
It's just us two.
Oh, well, he bounced off. I mean,
there he is.
He's back. So he must have bounced off for a minute. Probably had a phone call. But hey, Sasha, just really quickly, I was seeing a news story, and this just blew my mind because I know that we oftentimes talk about politics. But how does a country that's small as the Netherlands have 27 parties and 1,166 candidates? How do you even choose between that many people? Because like I said, when I saw that, I was going like, sounds like a nightmare if you tried to vote with that many candidates and that many parties. So I don't even know how you're going to come up with a winner. Not you, but the Dutch.
I don't know. It's Dutch is a very small country geographically, and I would imagine that all potential candidates, they are personally talking to their electors, and whoever project a better image and more likable or whatever is probably getting on top. That's what I would imagine. I never lived in Netherlands and never voted there, of course, but that's what I would imagine.
I would imagine the same thing, but it's just a crazy amount of, because even the the ballots got to look ridiculous with that many candidates and everything like that. But maybe you vote in bunches and everything like that. What's going on? Because I know tomorrow we'll be talking about Ukraine, Russia, and China, as we always do on Tuesdays and Fridays. But is there any new developments, and is there anything going on? Or is Trump too busy running around Asia talking to his Asian friends?
Trump is very busy now with his Asian trip. He's trying to play as a peacemaker and signing new agreements, stopping another 75 wars as usual, and so on and on. The critical meeting will be on 30th, on Thursday, with the Emperor Xi. And I don't expect anything good will happen in that meeting, because essentially, although I know that there are two teams that are working on agenda and issues to discuss, in my opinion, all Emperor Xi has to tell him is, Donald, okay, I'll give you a few minutes of your time. Explain to me, what do you want from me? What exactly do you want? And if this will go into concrete messages and points, Trump will lose it very quickly. Look at what's happened on his negotiations with Canada. When there are some obstacles appeared, no, I'm not going to talk to them for the next 10 years. No, I don't need them, and so on. But tell me why China needs U.S. today. Just explain to me. Two things have in mind. By the time Trump came to power, the foreign debt of the United States was $36 trillion. Today is already over 38. So in a few months, less than 10 months, 9 months, they accumulated additional $2 trillion worth of debt, in spite of the Musk company to cut expenses and so on. And you hear they cut so many jobs and they fired so many people. So how come the debt increased for another $2 trillion? I don't understand that. Maybe David Walker in next hour will explain that. Another idea is for you to consider. At the around December 2024, the gold owned by China was about 5,000 tons. 5,000. Today, 9 months later, it's, guess, 40,000 ounces of gold. So while US is increasing its debt, China is accumulated gold. It's creating now a new system for international trade where dollar will not play any role. And in fact, to make it more real than not, they already decreased about well over 35% their treasuries of the United States. They don't need United States treasuries because if dollar will lose its safe haven of reserve currency, nobody will need US dollar, not China, nobody else.
Does that mean that we'll have to pay higher interest on T-bills in order to get other countries to buy our debt?
Most likely, because of the need takers. Japan decreased its the U.S. Treasury portion of its portfolio, and other countries. I don't think anybody soon will increase U.S. So essentially, U.S. will buy its own treasury. How? By printing more money. By printing more money, so the dollar will go lower, the gold will go higher, the yuan, Japanese yen, all other currency will go higher. And then I don't understand the Trump's the rhetorics of tariffs or anything else. He looks like a like a school boy who is just a hooligan.
Hold on. This is day 27 of the shutdown. Yes. And for the first time, a U.S. president is leaving the country during a shutdown. It's highly likely this will become, in 8 days, it will become the longest shutdown in history. The Republicans are happy to keep the government shut down. They don't have to hold a vote on the Epstein files. The Democrats have to go along with the shutdown, otherwise they look like pussies.
Is it 8 days or is it 5 days? Because I thought it was November 1st and November 1st.
Well, November 1st is when SNAP benefits, which you mentioned, 1 American in 8 will run out of food benefits, which probably will freak out and piss off a lot of people. Sasha, so Moscow got swarmed by a bunch of drones.
Yeah, I was going to ask him about that because apparently they cut off a major dam. And I know that on your show, Sasha, you've been talking about them wanting to hit the dam near Crimea, but it looks like they hit the one at Belgorod. So how much will this sway the direction of the war?
Well, there are a lot of things you have to consider. Is that Ukraine is very quickly developing its own weapons. So neither Tomahawks or anything else, whatever America is ready or about ready to supply, not really required that much. Because first of all, Tomahawk, UK forces have Tomahawk. If they want to supply, then UK can do it just as well. Then the Tomahawk is not really a game changer because US has its own missiles. They can hit 2,000-3,000 kilometers away, and they're quite precise. Next development is that the Sweden concern Saab is going to supply to Ukraine Gripen. It's very advanced aircrafts, and in some categories they exceed F-16s. And now, just yesterday, Sweden announced that they're going to do a production of Gripen in Ukraine. Okay, so thank you for F-16s. They're good, but US is not moving as quickly, as expeditiously as Sweden is moving and other European countries. So in that respect, Sorry, I'm just getting curious about the effectiveness of U.S. foreign policy. Okay, they want to now fight what? Venezuela. Okay, great. War to deflect all attention American for fights in U.S. cities, fights with American people that Trump started. And okay, here is Venezuela. Okay, everybody, Venezuela, let's do this, let's do that. I'm not even convinced that he will have guts to actually attack Venezuela as a country. Besides, I don't know how it works in the United States. He doesn't have anything discussed with Congress or any House or Senate or anything. So I don't know. It's one man. It's like a Tsar. So he wants to fight a war, so he starts and fights the war. How does it work in U.S.?
So there's a movie just came out on Netflix that is a lot of discussion. A lot of people say it's the best movie they've seen. A lot of people say it's the worst movie they've seen. It's called A House of Dynamite. And it's about what happens when a nuclear missile seems to be heading to the United States and the government has 19 minutes to figure out what to do about it. And, I won't tell you who plays the president, but that guy would make a better president. I mean, it's an extra scary movie because everybody in this movie is competent and they're working their hardest in this very short window of time they have to deal with the missile. And it's double scary because we think, my wife said, imagine the people that we have in office in the U.S. for real dealing with this situation. And it would be so much worse because they're not competent.
Well, I still love the Dr. Strangelove movie. I think this is absolutely fantastic. I'm surprised that Dr. Strangelove is almost forgotten. People very seldom quote it or showing on TV or somewhere else because the movie is brilliant in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's great, but it's 60 years old. It
doesn't matter. Everything what is in the movie is happening today. I really don't see much difference.
No, it's the situation in this House of Dynamite movie is pretty much the same as Strangelove, and then there was another movie called Failsafe, came out at the same time because Americans, we almost had a nuclear war with Russia, Soviet Union in 1962 over nuclear missiles in Cuba, and for a week or two, Americans were wondering whether we were going to get obliterated. And since then, we've kind of, suffered from amnesia. We've forgotten that a bad radar signal could, put us on the brink of nuclear war.
Yeah, agreed.
Jacoby, you're on mute.
Well, wasn't it Stephen Miller just the other day talking about nuclear missiles?
I don't know, what was he saying? Well, I mean, whatever he says, he's part of he's one of the people who would make things so much worse in the case of a nuclear crisis.
Yeah, he was talking about I think it was him or somebody in the administration talking about putting missiles on the boat or on boats as a threat. It was something crazy. Either way,
do we have any proof that those boats were carrying?
No, there's no proof. There's no proof whatsoever. No evidence. No nothing. They just blew people up because they said. And it was Rand Paul.
It's more than a dozen boats now, right? That we've blown out of the water.
Yep. And Rand Paul was the one who said that at least when the Coast Guard would get the boats off the coast of the U.S., only 25% would have drugs. Or I'm sorry, only 75% would have drugs, 25% wouldn't have anything whatsoever. So, in other words, he's just out there indiscriminately killing people. And what was scary, I think it was CBS had a interview with Lindsey Graham and showed the clip of Trump saying that, he's going to move, he's possibly moving to land and he's just going to kill people, which is scary because, this man is talking about legitimately using the military just to kill people, and he does it so nonchalantly, like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, and y'all can't stop me. Well, Lindsey Graham gave him the okay, saying, yeah, we can't stop him. He's gonna give us a brief, I guess, but so it's just scary to think of the position that we are. And Sasha, I know you said that you don't know the foreign policy. The foreign policy is basically anything that gives us money, anything that gives Trump money. That's what we're gonna do. There's Peter, what's the guy who the anonymous donator of $150 million, one of Trump's buddies.
Peter
also
Peter Thiel.
Peter Mellon.
Yeah. So he actually wrote a book in, what was it, 2015 or something like that, about slavery redo. So, I mean, he has a huge racist background, but he's out here giving money. Basically, he's buying military protection. That's what we are now. So that's our foreign policy. We're mercenaries for hire. And that's all we're going to do. If you give us money, we'll protect you. It's the same way the mob has always done when it shakes down neighborhoods, saying, hey, look, it'd be bad if something happens to this grocery store, but if you give me money, I promise I'll protect you.
So tell me, is Peter Mellon, by donating $150 million, he can say now that he wants to have part of military and see that the military, at least to the tune of $150 million, will serve him somewhat as a return for the money. I mean, why would you give $150 million for nothing? So, okay, here's 150. Okay, call me next time, I'll give you another 150. Normally, exactly. Wealthy, they don't act that way. Okay, I'll give you something for something. I need something maybe to get your troops into my state or in my city and do some work for me after I gave you 150 million. Is that correct? Oh, you don't like it? So I'm not going to give it 150. Okay, give it back.
That is spot on, Sasha. Look at the quote unquote donors to the actual to the ballroom that taxpayers aren't funding it. All these companies are giving money. Do you know who else got tax cuts in that big, beautiful bill? Google got a big billions of dollars in tax cuts.
Yeah, wasn't Google one of the donors?
Yes,
you got it. Guess who else was
let me talk about the ballroom for a second.
Yeah.
So our most well-known and probably some of the most beautiful federal buildings in DC, the Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court building, they all are classical architecture, and they all have mirror symmetry. They all look, if they're symmetrical side to side, right? I took a look at that frickin' ballroom, and Nick says we're all being babies about the ballroom. But if you look at the ballroom is frickin' ugly. It is the McMansion of ballrooms. There's not one side of it has symmetry, the kind of symmetry that is that goes along with our best federal buildings. There's a main entrance to the ballroom on the opposite side from the White House. And it's got one of those Supreme Court triangles on top, 6 columns, very elegant, except then they screw it up by putting 9 enormous windows on the left side of the entrance and nothing on the other side. It looks like crap. It was designed by McCrary Associates, which is, the guy, McCrary, is an expert in classical architecture, but they didn't give him enough time because he slapped together a piece of crap. It doesn't look good, Rick, from any angle.
Rick, what has Trump built or had built or been a part of?
So I just read something. I don't know if this is true. That Trump hasn't supervised the construction of a building since 1984. That everything with Trump on it since 1984 is where other builders came to him and said, we want our building to look classy. Can we license your name? So
and what I'm saying, though, any of those buildings, any of them look all this phenomenal? No, they're gaudy with gold and all this trashy stuff. So look at Mar-a-Lago. So again, yeah, the ballroom. What are we expecting? It's going to be he's trying to make the White House into a palace, and that palace is Mar-a-Lago.
Well, speaking of palaces, what do we think about the trade deals that apparently he's got going with these Asian countries? I wish that Sharif was here because Malaysia and Cambodia are two of the folks that he's got agreements with, as well as apparently he's working on some deals with Thailand and Vietnam as he's going on his Asia tour. So it's a way for them to get out of the tariffs, apparently.
So I think we have to actually stop saying that there are trade deals. Okay. We have to really stop playing into this narrative, because what has been signed?
Well, it says that the U.S. entered into a trade agreement with Malaysia and Cambodia that will see the Southeast Asian nations lower tariffs and regulations on U.S. goods such as vehicles and farm products.
Here's what I'm saying. You and I can sit here and say, hey, you know what? Sasha and I agreed that we're going to watch a TV show on Saturday, this coming Saturday. We agreed to it. That's an agreement.
That's an agreement, right?
Did we sign anything? No. So, I mean, we can say they've got agreements or possibilities, handshakes, pinky swears, all this other stuff. Nothing's signed, so nothing's official. So until we say that a trade deal means there's a signature and everything's going through Congress and we're done. That's a trade deal. What we have is handshakes, promises, all to, curry favor and put in a narrative and put money in the back pocket of Trump. So until we have something actually signed, we can't call them deals.
But while there is a shutdown, nothing can be verified or certified.
Exactly.
So you can sign 5 deals every 10 minutes and they will be completely meaningless.
Exactly. So I mean that's the narrative that we keep playing into, and this president is such a great deal maker. He ain't signed nothing. What deal has he signed?
I just tried to look it up, and it's extremely complicated, which makes me think that it's hard to tell. People, Trump's fans like to say he's playing 3-dimensional chess, and then libs like to say no, his messed up old man hamburger clogged brain is just like sparking. But the deal is there are 200 countries in the world, and so when he talks about tariffs, the amount of bullshit he can pump out and confusion, because he can just like add another country, take away a country, and he gets away with stuff, and he distracts from the Epstein files by making other news. And what better news is, that you've got a supply
so
of
basically, hold on a second, Rick. So
the guy put tariffs on a country that just is of penguins, and his people ranted and raved how he was so great about these tariffs. The dude put tariffs on a country of penguins.
Well, he had AI generate a list of nations, and it screwed up and put Penguin Island on the list.
Well, that's what you're saying.
Rick, let's not blame this on AI. Let's not blame this on AI. This is Trump. He hears a name. He hears something. He's going to run with it. He just says dumb stuff. Look at his art when he had that function with RFK, even though RFK is an idiot. And he goes up and says something to the effect, or talking about, well, the Amish, and they have no autism. And isn't that right? I heard that somewhere. Isn't that right? That is idiotic. So we cannot blame AI. This is just this idiot rambling about stuff, and we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I can't do that. I'm not giving this man the benefit of the doubt when he goes.
All I'm saying is I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt either, except to say that one way he gets away with stuff is by having so much other stuff going on, and putting tariffs on the board adds 200 more chess pieces to the board, which just adds so much confusion.
Yeah, he's just putting out confusion. He's just confusing people.
Well, speaking of confusion, apparently when he got off the island in Malaysia, and I'm sure you've seen the clips of it, he did that wild dance that he does, and all along those lines. Because even
the jerking off 2 guys dance, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
come
that.
there is also a trip of Canadian Prime Minister Carney, who also arrived in Malaysia to a red carpet where he was greeted with his wife. And what he said, very important, is Canada is open for business. Canada is a reliable partner and wants to deal with reliable partners. It was very well received because Canada, if you think about it, it has all advantages that United States can provide to these countries, including technology, including the natural resources, including technology, including almost anything. So for them, if there is a choice among equal opportunities, deal with Canada or United States, they will choose Canada 99 times out of 100. Simply because of reliability, because Canada is not trying to put one-sided agreements where they're trying to screw somebody. That's not Canadian way. Canada is a reliable partner and wants to deal with reliable partners in that region.
Yeah, you guys are so spoiled now with sane government. You have 10 provinces, but you only have to keep 10 together. Only one of your provinces is crazy. We've got 50 states we have to keep together. Like 26 of those states are crazy. You guys are known for good manners. You guys have terrible winters where people have to stay inside bundled up, which probably adds to just people being calm. You guys have the second largest land area in the world. You've got so much. And it's not fair that you guys get to be sane while we're losing our shit down here.
What's interesting is that this commercial, which is being played, featuring Ronald Reagan, a speech about his
dislike of tariffs,
need for tariffs and so on, and that he's free trader. Why Trump became so furious about that? Because this is truth. You can find it in any library. Why you get? He said that okay, from now on, he's not gonna talk to Canada for next several months or years or whatever else. He will raise 10% additional tariffs on Canada. So what's interesting is that it was an ad by the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. And all 9 other provinces, they all supported his commercial, all of them. So it's not like Trump against Ford. No, it's Trump against all Canada. That's now quite obvious.
What's hilarious is that was supposed to be the reason the tariffs were is because it was supposed to be for manufacturing and bring it all back. But now we know that was all BS, because really it's about him and his ego and power. That's all he cares about. That when that commercial hit, that should have proved it to everybody that the tariffs are nothing but a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
Do we think that Trump wants to be the king of all of America, and that he wants to knock Maduro out and then eventually knock Cuba out and just kind of like rule all of North America?
He wants to be a king. He wants to be a global king. He wants everybody to bow down to him. I don't know what else we need to see or what else needs to be proven about that. When he's telling Canada, you can't play this. When he's telling telling Venezuela, we're going to do regime change. When he's telling Israel in the actual 20-point plan for the peace agreement between Israel and Gaza, do you know, or Israel and Hamas, do you know he put himself in charge of actually leading that area and he wants to be king of everything. I don't know what else we need to see to prove that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Canada again for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Winter comes. It's already probably winter in Canada right now. Edmonton has a mall. There's where you can get to it by underground tunnels, so you don't ever have to be cold. The mall has 800 stores. All the U.S. malls,
and swimming pool, and many other luxuries.
And the U.S., all our malls have closed down. The only thing our malls are good for are making zombie movies. because all the businesses have gone out. You guys, you still have this Paradise, the largest mall in the world. And so all winter, people can go around, they can get pretzels, they can swim, they can ice skate, they can go to Dave and Buster's, they can go to Baskin Robbins. Look at it, all the store. I mean, it's a paradise up there.
Speaking of cold places, isn't one of the greatest malls in North America in a cold place? Because I think the Great America Mall is still around.
Well, you got the King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
I was thinking about the Great America, which I think
Great
is in
America.
Minnesota.
All right, but it's up north. People like to be in a commercial, a retail paradise when outside the weather is terrible.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything like that. It looks like we talk about the left and the right. It looks like the left might have actually won an election that took place that I didn't get to in the news, but apparently over the weekend, Ireland elected a president that they say is more left-wing and anti-establishment. So Catherine Connolly won as president of Ireland. So we'll see if she kind of reaches out to some of the right-wing establishments and tries to work some sort of agreement between the left and the right.
You know what makes a country behave itself? When they've gone through hell. Ireland went through more than a century of hell with Catholics versus Protestants, right. England versus, and they blew themselves up on a weekly basis for years and years. And they fixed that. And now they just want shit to be nice.
Yeah, they just wanted to be nice. You were talking about malls.
Germany's a pretty great nation with very nice people with accents that still make my balls retract. You hear a German accent if you're Jewish, and it makes you nervous. But
yeah, I hear you. But by the way, you were talking about malls in the U.S., and I just looked it up. The 10 best ones, according to the USA Today, a lot of them are in cold weather places. So Brookfield Place, formerly known as the world's financial center, is a luxury retail dining and event space overlooking the Hudson River. Tyson Corner, which is up there in Tyson, Virginia, is a shopping destination with around 300 stores, 40 dining spaces, a movie theater, and a Hyatt Regency. And then there's something called the Grapevine Mills in Texas.
When Al Qaeda took down the Twin Towers in 2001, George W. Bush, who after the attacks had the highest approval of any president in history, his advice to America was calm down and go shopping.
Right.
And so people laughed at him then, but now, it sounds like good advice. We should all calm the heck down. And, we don't have any money because the government's shut down and, 1.4 million Americans aren't getting paychecks, but you can still walk the mall. That's what old people do for exercise. They put on their tennis shoes. Well, now I guess they play pickleball. I don't know if they
play pickleball, and they also do still walk around the malls when there are malls to walk around, because some of the malls here in North Carolina have shut down. But then a lot of the malls are becoming more like attractions, like you just mentioned about the one in Canada, because even Grapevine has got a Sea Life Aquarium and a Legoland Discovery Center and a Peppa Pig's Land of Play and a Rainforest Cafe. So they've got like a bowling alley and a dine-in movie theater and a bunch of other stuff. And the same thing with
also, this is the most depressing time of the year. The sun starts going down at 4 p.m. in a lot of places, and and people are. This is the time of year when I flunked out of school. Every time I get depressed and I quit doing schoolwork. So that's why we have all our festive food holidays. Halloween, we eat a bunch of candy. Thanksgiving, turkey. Christmas, eggnog, and a ton of others. So,
by the way, just in case folks were wondering, apparently the number one mall in the U.S. is not the Mall of America. That's number 2, but the number one is Aventura Mall in Florida. They said it's the largest mall in the state of Florida and has more than 300 retail shops, experiences, and dining options, including the first eatery in Florida, and boasts a museum-worthy art collection. So you go to check out the museum over there in this big mall and everything like that. So I guess we got to have malls that got more like features to them to make people
if you can't live in an entire country that's an oasis like Nick over there in Spain, you have to go to a retail oasis. You got to go to your mall.
Got to go to the mall, the retail oasis. Hey Nick, how are you doing and what's happening in Spain? You got the going on again.
Your voice.
Fix the voice. You sounded like Donald Duck. Yeah, he goes like Donald Duck again.
That's a Spanish accent, I guess.
That was the Spanish accent. No, he just wanted to impress Jacoby's kids that he knew how to do a Donald Duck impersonation. That's what that was.
No, I think that's the alarm that tells us he's about to say something very propagandish.
Okay. Well, the problem is the time zones have changed here, and they didn't change over there. So I showed up now, and your show is actually, at least according to mine, an hour later.
Yes.
And then I've got appointments coming up, but now I'm not sure when they're going to be because.
Well, supposedly you have a show with got a show with David right in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, we got David coming up, but I'd like you to be there to take control in case I get bounced to another appointment because of my time zone changes. It's weird.
So we've already been bitching about the East Wing teardown, which you would have jumped on us for that. But here's a story related to that. The chief of CNN, the news network, went to the White House, and after he left, he said, CNN, you guys got to back away from coverage of the torn down East Wing. So it's another news.
No, go ahead and cover it. It's just another losing red herring for the Democrats. So go ahead and cover it all you want.
Yeah, it probably is.
Rather than cover important issues, you grab red herrings, then you lose and you cry. Hey, why'd we lose? It's because you're stupid.
Well, Joe Walsh, who used to be
grab issues you can win. They teach you that in law school. Do not grab issues that are red herrings. So he throws out this red herring in the ballroom, and everybody goes, bah, 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 bah. And you got a lot of real issues you can win on. But no. We're going to have our losers.
In 5 days, 40 million people are about to lose 2 days.
Good for you. Yay. Speaking of which,
the ballroom is a real issue because it shows exactly who Trump is dealing with. The fact of it being such a transactional piece. For example, as I pointed out, the people that got cut in the big beautiful bill are the same people who are listed as donors for the ballroom. So it is an actual issue, but that's the problem: is that when he throws out all this stuff.